Right now, a group of 25 lawmakers is threatening to bring the entire United States government to a grinding halt over a single piece of election legislation.
Yeah, it's a massive escalation.
I mean, we're talking about Representative Anna Paulina Luna. She's gathered this coalition of 25 House Republicans, and they've basically made an absolute pledge.
Right, they're locking arms.
Exactly. They are pledging to block every single bill coming over from the Senate. We're talking major housing packages, critical national security funding.
Just an across-the-board freeze.
Yep. If the Senate sends it over, they just vote no. They want to completely freeze the legislative process until the Senate passes the Save America Act.
And, 25 lawmakers in a room of 435 people normally, that wouldn't cause a panic.
Right. It's a small group.
But the majority margin in the House is just incredibly thin right now. So mathematically, those 25 votes give them total leverage.
Wow.
Yeah, they literally have the power to decide what becomes law and what just dies on the floor.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this standoff. We've got a stack of legislative notes on the Save America Act, and we're cross-referencing those with a highly charged conservative political podcast.
Brian Maxwell's Real Politics.
Right, that's the one. So we're going to break down the intense debate, the actual math behind this blockade, and, the strategy they're deploying.
But before we jump into all the mechanics, we should probably set a baseline for you listening at home.
Good idea.
The sources we're analyzing today, especially the podcast, are filled with some really intense political rhetoric from both sides. And our goal today is absolutely not to take a side.
No, not at all.
Right. We aren't endorsing any of the viewpoints we're about to talk about. We just want to impartially break down the claims and the strategy so you can actually understand why this gridlock is happening.
Exactly. So to understand why these lawmakers are basically shutting down the House, we need to look at what they're fighting for. The Save America Act.
Right. What does it actually do?
Simply put, it requires people to prove their U.S. citizenship and their identity when they register to vote, and it mandates showing a photo ID at the polls.
And the supporters of this, you see Senators Mike Lee and Rick Scott pushing this heavily in the notes. They frame this entirely as a national security issue.
Right.
Their argument is that without strict citizenship verification, the system is just wide open to ineligible voters. Specifically, They're pointing to undocumented immigrants casting ballots, which they argue allows foreign powers to influence our elections.
And Senator Lee, he actually uses a lot of international context for this.
Yeah.
He argues that the United States is kind of a massive outlier.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, he points to countries like Mexico, Brazil, India, Argentina, Botswana. I mean, totally different governments all over the world, and they all mandate voter ID.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so the proponents say, hey, this isn't some fringe idea. We're just trying to catch up to a global standard.
Which is an interesting tactic, right? Moving away from these big, abstract constitutional arguments and using, everyday comparisons.
Yes. Actually, Representative Tim Burchett does exactly this in the podcast transcript.
The baseball analogy.
Right, the baseball one. He says, look, if your kid wants to play Little League Baseball, you have to hand over a birth certificate.
Yeah.
It's totally non-negotiable.
Just have to play a game.
Exactly. So my question is, if establishing identity is just a normal hurdle for kids playing sports, why is doing it for voting causing this massive political earthquake?
Well, it's because the controversy isn't really about the plastic ID card in your wallet.
It's not.
No, the real sticking point, the thing that has critics completely terrified, is this specific mechanism in the bill about back-end data.
Okay, what does that mean?
The Save America Act requires states to send all their voter registration rolls to the Department of Homeland Security. And then DHS runs that data through an algorithm to audit everyone's eligibility.
Wait, audit everyone? I mean, there are 160 million registered voters. That sounds like a data science nightmare.
It is a massive undertaking.
How does an algorithm even do that?
By cross-referencing, it takes the voter rolls and bounces them against DMV records, Social Security data, immigration databases. It's basically hunting for discrepancies.
Okay.
If your name on the voter roll doesn't perfectly match the federal database, the algorithm flags it.
So if I'm understanding this, say someone named Maria Garcia gets married, changes her last name, updates her voter registration, but maybe forgets to update her Social Security profile.
The algorithm spots the mismatch. Exactly.
Wow.
Think of it like a really aggressive spam filter on your email. Proponents say, hey, we're just clearing out the junk, duplicate registrations, dead people, non-citizens.
Right.
But the critics argue the filter is cranked up way too high. They're terrified it's going to accidentally send millions of valid voters to the trash just because, like a middle initial got dropped on a DMV form.
Ah, okay. That really explains why Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was so furious. In the sources, he calls this an anti-democracy measure.
Yeah, he was not holding back.
No, he claims this DHS algorithm is basically a fix designed to unjustly purge 20 to 30 million people from the voting rolls.
20 to 30 million.
Yeah. He's painting it as this massive voter suppression scheme driven by a faulty computer program.
I mean, stripping that many voters would completely rewrite the political map, it's an unprecedented number.
But here's where it gets wild. The conservative podcast source takes Schumer's exact warning and totally flips it.
How do they do that?
So the podcaster, Brian Maxwell, and Representative Burchett, they dissect Schumer's statement, word for word.
Yeah.
And they point out that Schumer said 25 million people would be removed.
Okay.
He didn't say 25 million Americans.
Oh, wow. That's a very specific semantic catch.
Right. They completely weaponized that phrasing. The conservative sources argue that the algorithm isn't targeting legal citizens at all.
So who do they think those 25 million people are?
They claim they're illegal immigrants and deceased individuals who shouldn't be on the rolls anyway. Maxwell even drops a statistic claiming Michigan recently allowed nearly 30,000 dead people to remain on their active registration lists.
30,000.
That's what he claims in the podcast.
You know, this is the perfect example of how two political sides can look at the exact same number, 25 million people, and see two completely different realities.
Totally.
In the critics' reality, that's a massive voter suppression scheme. But in the proponents' reality, it's just a digital janitor cleaning up fraudulent registrations.
So if they are living in these alternate realities, how does anything actually pass? I guess that brings us back to Representative Luna's strategy, right? Because she's not trying to persuade anyone anymore.
No, she's resorting to sheer blunt force. When compromise fails, you use leverage.
Right.
She has flat out messaged the Speaker of the House, demanding that no Senate bills even reach the floor without the SAVE Act attached.
And we really need to highlight the collateral damage here. They aren't holding up, like, renaming post offices.
No, these are massive bills.
They're blocking a pending housing package and crucial FISA regulations.
That's foreign surveillance, right?
Exactly. It dictates how intelligence agencies track overseas targets. If that expires, the intelligence community basically goes blind. So Luna is putting national security funding on the chopping block just to force this election bill.
And she's taken it all the way to the top, too.
Oh, right, the veto threat.
Yeah, she is publicly pushing President Trump to pledge a veto. She wants him to promise that if any bill somehow slips through this blockade without the SAVE Act, he'll kill it the second it hits his desk.
Okay, but I have to ask, I get the passion, but how does a group of just 25 people hijack the whole country's lawmaking process, like holding up intelligence funding?
It's just the math of a slim majority. If your party only has a 5 or 6 seat advantage, you need near unanimous agreement to pass anything. If just 25 people defect and vote no with the other party, you don't hit that 50% plus one threshold.
Wow, so they don't have to convince the whole House.
Exactly. They just have to deny their own party those few crucial votes.
Man. So the House is paralyzed. But looking at the sources, the real roadblock is actually happening over in the Senate.
Oh, absolutely. The Senate rules are a whole different animal.
And the podcast transcript gets brutal about the internal drama over there. Brian Maxwell and these conservative lawmakers are absolutely furious with their own party.
The RINO accusations?
Yes, Republicans in name only. They are targeting senators like John Thune and Bill Cassidy, accusing them of secretly working with Democrats and global elites to kill the bill from the inside.
Well, internal blame is pretty common when a big legislative push stalls out.
Sure, but it gets bizarre.
Oh.
Maxwell claims on his show that when Senator Thune speaks at a podium, he actually uses secret hand gestures.
Wait.
Yeah, secret hand gestures to signal his true allegiance to these global elites. I mean, we're talking about sitting U.S. senators here. How does that even gain traction?
It just shows the intense distrust right now. When a bill like this hits a wall, people don't want to believe they lost on a procedural rule. It's easier to believe they were betrayed.
Right.
But if we strip away the conspiracy theories about secret hand signals, the actual Senate drama boils down to one thing: the math of the filibuster.
Right, because Senator Cassidy says they don't have the votes to pass it. But then Senator Lee insists they do have 50 votes.
They're both looking at the same numbers but talking about different thresholds.
How so?
Senator Lee is talking about a simple majority. If 50 senators vote yes and J.D. Vance as vice president casts the tiebreaker, it passes.
Okay, that makes sense.
But Senator Cassidy is dealing with the filibuster. To even get to that final vote, you have to end debate. And ending debate requires 60 votes.
Oh, right. Cloture.
Exactly. If you only have 50 votes, the opposition can just refuse to stop debating forever and the bill dies.
But the sources outline a way around that 60-vote problem, and it's honestly mind-blowing to me.
The talking filibuster.
Yes, they want to force the 50 opposing Democrats to physically stand on the Senate floor and speak continuously.
Which is just a grueling physical endurance test. You can't sit down, you can't stop talking, you can't even go to the bathroom.
The second you stop, you lose your turn.
Exactly.
Let's run the math they project in the sources because it's insane. 50 Democrats, they each get 2 turns. If they average 12 hours per turn, that's 24 hours of nonstop talking per senator.
Multiply that by 50 people. You're looking at 1,200 hours of continuous speaking.
That's 50 straight days. And the podcast estimates, with delays, it could take up to 64 straight days of around-the-clock talking.
But here's the brutal part for the opposition. If the proponents just wait them out, if they sit there until every Democrat physically collapses and uses up their turns...
Yeah, the filibuster breaks.
Yes, the debate is mathematically forced to end.
And the 60-vote rule vanishes.
Exactly. Then they can just pass it with their 50 votes, plus J.D. Vance.
That is staggering. 64 days of physical exhaustion. It's not even about debating policy anymore. It's a war of attrition, using these obscure rules to literally break people.
It really is. It shows that passing laws right now is less about persuasion and entirely about physical stamina.
So just to recap this whole journey for you listening, a bill requiring proof of citizenship triggers fears of a massive algorithm purging millions of voters.
Right.
That fear sparks a 25-member blockade holding national security funding hostage in the House, and leads to threats of a 2-month-long speaking marathon in the Senate.
And you know, even if you don't care about the daily political drama, you should care about this.
Why is that?
Because it shows how totally unrelated things like housing packages and intelligence funding can just get completely frozen over one single election dispute.
Yeah, the whole system just screeches to a halt.
Exactly.
It really leaves you with a provocative question to ponder. If our lawmakers are willing to freeze the entire government and physically exhaust themselves for 2 months over who is on a voter roll, are our legislative rules actually protecting our democracy, or are they just making it impossible to govern?